The Cleveland Cavaliers are surging towards the playoffs, and now with their native son, LeBron James, home again, the question is, how far can the Cavs extend their run? And here to give us a playoff preview for your Cleveland Cavaliers is Joshua Howe, a featured writer for HoopsHabit.com. Josh, thanks for taking your time out this afternoon to join us on the Two Man Advantage podcast.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, Josh, recently head coach David Blatt said that it was important for the Cavaliers to finish with the second seed in the Eastern Conference with a record now of 48 and 27. She seems to think that there is an advantage to getting home court advantage. So, can you tell me the importance of the Cavs finishing with the second seed in the Eastern Conference?
Sure. I agree. I think it's very important. The Cavs, there were a lot of thoughts early on about how the Cavaliers were talented enough to not care about seeding positions, but I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's true, especially when you have a team that was basically constructed over the summer. They're brand new. They're still in the process of meshing. So getting home court advantage as much as they can definitely helps. Obviously, they can't take the first seed from the Hawks at this point. They've got it locked up, but other than that, finishing with the second seed would definitely help against teams such as the Bulls. And it'll help with, players that are new to the playoffs. Kyrie will get more games at home. Love will get more games with the Cavs. Yeah, and I think really they need it to have a deep playoff run in the
So
East.
after finishing 19 and 20, the Cavaliers sort of picked it up after the All-Star break. So what do you attribute their improved play to, and how did they catapult to the second seed in the East, in your opinion?
I think it really started with LeBron getting healthy. He took those 2 weeks off. Before that, the Cavs were disjointed. They had a lot of issues. Some of it was stemming from LeBron himself being injured and not quite right. And I think he was just also exhausted, just mentally exhausted, obviously from going to the finals for 4 straight years, his time with the Miami Heat, and now he's finally back home. So I think that helped. And then, of course, the trades for Mozgov, Shumpert, and Smith have also helped the team. And then even just increased effort level, which I think they've talked about a couple times. But they've really started to, work together, try hard. They can't just win on talent alone. They have to, pick it up.
And Josh, can you tell me, you led into my next question, can you tell me what the importance of making that trade for J.R. Smith, Amon Shumpert, and Mozgov for the team, building their depth for their roster, and how much it improved their overall depth and their bench?
Yeah, one of the first things I wrote about actually when I started with Hoops Habit writing for the Cavaliers was the issue of depth on the Cavaliers bench, and they didn't have much of it. As you can see early in the season, they were playing guys like Mike Miller and Sean Marion too many minutes. Those guys are older; they can't handle that many minutes, and they aren't, they're not the players that you want to have playing crunch time necessarily in close games or playoff games. So the additions of Shumpert and Smith and Mozgov especially have helped immensely. Those guys were able to move to the bench and give some experience from there. So Smith, I think the big thing for them there is he replaced Dion Waiters, basically, who was awful for the Cavaliers this season, and he's not playing very well for the Thunder either. So Smith has been great. He's actually been above average on defense. He's a much better shooter. He's fit in really well, and I think he was just glad to get out of New York. And I think Shumpert too. He's been playing well. Good, solid perimeter defender that need help with, and then Mozgov's rim protection, which was something they've needed for a while now, especially with the injury to Anderson Varejao. So, yeah, I think this has just really helped them become a legitimate title contender. Before, I didn't
And tell
think they
me,
were going to
outside
be
of
legit.
LeBron James, the Caps don't really have a lot of playoff experience on their roster. So how much will that hinder them going into the playoffs and making an extended playoff run?
I don't really actually think it will hurt them that much. I wrote an article about it. Uh, I think Kyrie Irving has shown us that, especially this season, even that he's built for big games. His game thrives on that sort of thing. He feeds on the crowd. Um, you could see it in the 2014 All-Star game where he won MVP. He went nuts. His game is built, that way where he can create space and he can go off. We've seen that twice this season. He scored 55, and then he scored 57 another night, which is huge in the playoffs when you can have a guy who can create space and actually carry your team to a win. And then Kevin Love, I mean, this is why he came to Cleveland. He came to win, and he came to get some playoff experience for the first time. So I think he's going to go, up to 1,000%. He's going to be trying as hard as he possibly can to help them win and get to the finals. So I think he'll be ready to go. I don't think it's going to rattle them that much. I think people are overplaying that narrative, especially when the rest of the team, they have some experience on the team. They have guys that can calm down other guys, and especially even LeBron. Uh, Another concern is how those guys might wilt in the moment. Well, they have LeBron James to take over in the moment if they really need to. He could take over a game seven. He can take over in the last few possessions. So I don't think it's that much of a concern.
And in terms of LeBron James, he's got a special relationship with Northeast Ohio. Obviously, he's from there. And how much do you think his hometown or sentimental attachment to Cleveland and that area is driving his will to succeed?
I think it's huge. I think it's huge. I mean, he could have stayed in Miami and trusted in Pat Riley, which is not a crazy thing at all to do. It's at the time it seemed like a much more crazy thing that he was going back to Cleveland when they just got a new coach that had never coached in the NBA, and there was tension between him and the owner Dan Gilbert. But he went home, had the promise of Kyrie Irving. He didn't trust Dwayne Wade's knees. The Kevin Love deal might have already been done behind closed doors, I think, before he decided to go home. But he definitely, he wants to succeed in Cleveland. That's his last sort of thing, his last, hurrah almost. He's done literally everything else. He's won titles. He's won MVPs. He's won All-Star Game MVPs. He's been All-Stars. He's been everything. He's got records. He's one of the 10 greatest players of all time. But he really, really, really wants to get Cleveland a title. They've never had one. And just think about what it would be like. I can't remember who it was, but there was some other writer who said something like that this if he won one title in Cleveland, it would be worth three. So that sort of thing. It would be incredible.
And just one follow up for you in regards to David Blatt and his relationship with LeBron James and the entire team. Can you just tell me how he's evolved as an NBA coach? He was successful winning championships in Europe, but how do you think uh, his involvement as an NBA coach has progressed over the season?
I think he's done very, very well. One of the things I wrote about was that David Blatt should probably be a sort of undercover coach of the year candidate because he's going to be suffering from Eric Spoelstra's syndrome or effect, which was the same thing that happened when the big three got together in the first year in Miami. And through their reign in Miami, Spoelstra never won a coach of the year, and I think he should have at one point. And Blatt's going to get the same thing, where he's got a big three, so he's expected to win. But this is his rookie year in the NBA, and I know he doesn't like that statement that he's a rookie coach because he's not a rookie coach. He has a great resume. But this is his first time in the NBA, and LeBron James is the best player in the world, and they had some tension early on. But I think they've worked on it and resolved it, and I think they've made at least a working relationship. It might not be as great as LeBron's with Spoelstra's was, um, but it's working, and I think the evolution is going well. I think the meshing process is, I think it's in the latter stages now, which is impressive for a first season. So I think he's done very well for his first year in the NBA.
And for LeBron James in particular, he only signed a 2 year deal because he was interested in making sure that he could take advantage of the league signing their new uh, contract or with the television networks. So
Mhm.
how much do you think him only committing to Cleveland for 2 years is an impetus for their front office to prove to them that they're committed to winning?
I don't think Cleveland has to worry too much. I know some fans are worrying and already worried when he made the 2 year deal. But I mean, David Griffin has already showed that he's committed to winning. He didn't hesitate making those trades in this season when things are starting to go south, and that's made LeBron happy. He's happy with his team right now. He's showing Instagram posts and all that kind of stuff, and he said that this team could definitely win a title. He thinks so. He knows it's a process. Even before the season started, he said we probably won't win in the first year. It's going to take time. Of course, they want to win in the first year, but he knows the realistic goals. So I think it's safe to say that the team's committed, and I really don't think they have to worry. I think the only reason LeBron took the 2 year deal is so that he can just re-sign when the cap goes up and spikes, so that he can get a bigger deal and get the money he deserves, especially as he goes into his later years and starts to fall out of his prime.
And in terms of adding or adding pieces so that he doesn't have to do everything in terms of Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. How much do you think that'll help him as the Cavs get ready for an extended playoff run?
Well, I think it'll be tremendous. That's the whole reason he tried so hard to get Kevin Love to come to the team, and the reason that he went home knowing that Kyrie Irving has the potential to be something special and is something special, um, because he can't do it himself anymore. We saw that last season uh, in the finals, where the Spurs just went bonkers and destroyed the Miami Heat by record margins. It was incredible, but Dwayne Wade just couldn't do it anymore. It was the first time I've ever seen him in a position where he had the chance to step up and take a game, and he couldn't even do it. The previous year, he had 2 or 3 games in the finals where he was going back and forth with Ginobili, and the two of them, kind of had a little war, and whoever won the one more game, that team was going to win, and Wade had one better game. So, you know, um, without Wade, and he's been better this year, but LeBron wasn't, he couldn't know that. So I think it was smart for him to come home, and he's got two younger players, and they'll be there longer than Wade will be able to stay at a peak level.
And in terms of what do you look at as the Cavs' biggest strength, weakness, and challenge from the rest of the Eastern Conference as they get ready to enter this playoff run?
Yeah, their biggest strength, I think, is their offense. They have weapons all over the place. We kind of predicted, people everywhere predicted that before the season started that they were going to be a force on the offensive end, and they started off slow, but recently they have been. They've been terrifying on the offensive end. They got players everywhere. They can shoot, they can score. You can put LeBron out there with a lineup where everybody can score. You got the best stretch four in the league. Um, so in their big three, they can all score, and they can all create their own shot. So that's important. You've got J.R. Smith who can shoot much better than Dion Waiters. He's one of the better catch and shoot guards in the NBA. And you've got Shumpert as a solid defender. And Tristan Thompson has been underrated this season, but he's done a great job improving on defense and finishing around the basket. And Mozgov can finish around the basket too. So all of the players on the team can do something offensively. There's no one that's really a liability in that point. Um, except for maybe Dellavedova. But even his shooting has been improved from 3-point range lately. It hasn't been so bad. So, yeah, I think their offense is the best. Basically, they can, they're one of those teams that, like the Heat used to be able to, they can get hot in like a span of 30 seconds, and then over the next 4 minutes, they've just blown their opponent out of the water, and the game is already over. Um, yeah. So, biggest weakness, size. Size. They have problems with size still. There was a game against the Bulls where Mozgov got in foul trouble, and he had to sit for most of the game, and then Gasol and Noah just destroyed Cleveland on the interior, and the Cleveland couldn't do anything about it. And that's kind of why they went out and got Kendrick Perkins for another backup, because they just couldn't do anything. And that'll be a concern going forward. But yeah, Mozgov is key. Tristan's too undersized to play center position, even though he's a good defender. So yeah, that's an issue. And then yeah, just having a competent big. That's why Mozgov is such a great addition. But he can't get hurt, or he can't get into foul trouble too often in a series. And with any team that has large players. The Indiana Pacers, if they were all healthy, with David West and Roy Hibbert, they would still be scary. They were scary when LeBron was on the Heat, because they also had a disadvantage. So with size, so that's definitely their biggest weakness.
And their biggest challenge in the East, in your opinion, would be?
It's really tough to say just the one, but I gotta go with. It's sort of a tie between the Bulls and Hawks. The Bulls, for the reasons I said, because of their size. They obviously have, Derrick Rose is set to come back apparently around the playoffs, so we'll see how he does. But yeah, their size is the most terrifying thing with them. As for the Hawks, they're underrated right now. They've got the best, record in the East. They're I look at them like a mixture of sort of the Spurs. Because of the way they play, and then the 2004 Pistons, who won the title without a superstar player, which they don't have. They have 4 All-Stars, which makes them very good, and they have shooters everywhere. They have Kyle Korver, one of the best shooters in the league, but they don't have that superstar player who could just take over a Game 7. But they do have a great coach, could win Coach of the Year, and they like I said, they've got the top seed. They play the right way. They play as a team. And they're dangerous. They could, if they're playing the right way and they don't get rattled, it's concerning for Cleveland, because Cleveland, if things aren't working for them in the ways they want, they will sometimes go into playing ISO ball, and that's not the way to win against any team. So.
And finally, Josh, where do you see the Cavs finishing in the overall or entirety of the playoffs? Do you think they have enough firepower to win the title?
Now that they've got those trades under their belt, and the chemistry is getting better, I think they'll get to the finals. That's my prediction with them. I think they can get there. I think they can get past the Bulls or the Hawks. It won't be easy at all. It might go to 7 games, but yeah, I think they can get there, especially with LeBron knowing that he's got a team that he thinks can actually win it all. If they get to the finals, whoever's coming out of the West is going to be really, 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 really tough. I have the Warriors coming out of the West, and I think the Warriors are going to win the title. If the Cavaliers end up playing the Warriors, they're not going to win. But do they have the firepower to win? Yeah, potentially. Maybe, if a surprise team comes out of the West, maybe like the Grizzlies or something. I think that'd be a good matchup, maybe. But I don't know. The West has got some real tough teams, so.
Okay. Well, Josh, we thank you for your time this afternoon and for joining us on the Two Man Advantage podcast.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me.